morning. I'm Mike Bruno, the Chief of Investigations for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Suspect number one in this case is the driver who is deceased, Kendra Alston, black male, 12/11/1998. Suspect number two in this case is the passenger who is still outstanding. It's a black male, approximately 6 feet tall, long dreads pulled back in a ponytail, last seen wearing a black t-shirt and khaki pants. The officer involved in this incident is Sergeant J.C. Nobles, a 12-year veteran, and this is his third shooting. On March 19th around noontime, JSO dispatch began receiving calls from a concerned citizen regarding two subjects driving a vehicle in and out of the cemetery. The citizen advised that both of these suspects were armed with handguns. Officers responded to the area several times in an attempt to locate these suspects. Each time they were unsuccessful. Around 2 p.m., Sergeant J.C. Nobles logged out in the area to locate this vehicle. It's important to note that during one of the calls, the citizen advised a tag number to the vehicle. The officers subsequently ran that and were able to identify that it was a stolen vehicle. The vehicle was a black 2013 Nissan Altima that was stolen on March 11. So Sergeant Nobles logs out in the area, and while he's logged out, he drives down the road on the cemetery to see if the suspects are in there. He observes the suspect vehicle in the cemetery. He attempts to back out and call additional units. The suspects were outside of the vehicle, saw him, ran towards the vehicle, and began speeding towards the exit of the cemetery where Sergeant Nobles was located. While they were exiting the cemetery, they attempted to ram Sergeant Nobles and subsequently ran him off of the roadway. A short pursuit ensued till the 1800 block of Anderson Road, where the suspect vehicle lost control and struck a tree. When the suspect vehicle struck the tree, it pinned the passenger side of the vehicle to where they weren't able to exit there. So both the driver and the passenger exited out of the driver's side of the vehicle. As the driver exited the vehicle, Sergeant Nobles noticed that the driver had a handgun in his left hand. The driver pointed the handgun briefly at Sergeant Nobles and then began to run towards the yards, or through the yards towards Helena Street. The passenger also exited the vehicle with a handgun and threw that handgun towards the front of the vehicle, and Sergeant Nobles saw that as well. Sergeant Nobles gave chase through the yards towards Helena Street. During that foot pursuit, he fired his Glock 22 weapon and continued pursuing. He fired his Glock 22 weapon at the driver of that vehicle. He recognized the threat of that driver. He continued to pursue both the driver and the passenger until they approached Helena Street. As they were approaching Helena Street, the passenger started to run west in a westerly direction, and the passenger started to run in an easterly direction. The driver started to run in a westerly direction. Sergeant Nobles focused on the driver because he knew him to be armed and believed him to be armed. The driver got to the corner of the residence and took a crouched position. The driver then, from that crouched position, turned towards Sergeant Nobles. Sergeant Nobles, as I said, recognized that this was the driver that pointed the firearm at him earlier. He felt threatened. He fired his service weapon again in the direction of the suspect. The suspect subsequently went down. Sergeant Nobles attempted to render first aid and also called for medical assistance. The suspect's gun, in this case, for the driver's gun, was located near some large shrubbery. The passenger eluded apprehension of the officers. We set up a perimeter and we continue to try to identify the passenger in this case. Per our policy, Sergeant Nobles has been placed on administrative leave. It's important to note that throughout the night our investigators have continued to work this case. During their investigation, they located the Facebook photo that we placed up here. It's posted with the suspect holding a firearm in his left hand, which is unique in many cases. The firearm that The firearm that is in that picture has several characteristics to one that was recovered at the scene, and we've also provided photos of the 2 firearms that were recovered at the scene. This case speaks to the dangers that our police officers face each and every day. This was an event that developed rapidly. It's important for the public to note that from the time Sergeant Nobles called for assistance when the suspect vehicle attempted to ram him to the time that he called in the shots fired was approximately 1 minute. So at this time, I'll take any questions.
Any idea what they were doing in the cemetery?
We're still working through those details. We don't have any of that information, obviously. We haven't made contact with the passenger, so we can't get those details, but we're still trying to determine that.
Roger Weeder from First Coast News. Did the officer believe that I guess the driver was still armed when he was in a crouched position?
To the best of my knowledge, yes, sir. We're still sorting through those details, but yes, sir. He felt that he was threatened and that the driver was still armed at the time.
One gun had already been tossed.
Yes, sir.
By the passenger.
And that's one of the reasons that Sergeant Nobles focused on the driver, because he recognized that he was still a threat to the community.
And had seen him with the gun.
Yes, sir.
Chief Bruno, Alana Gomez with Action News. At any point, we heard you mention the suspects pointing their guns at the officers. At any point, did they exchange fire with the officers?
We're still working through that, but right now, no, we don't believe that there was an exchange of gunfire.
You believe the second gun belonged to the passenger, is that correct?
Sergeant Noble saw the other weapon, that the passenger brought the other weapon out of the vehicle. So, yes, sir, it was located in the direction that Sergeant Noble saw the passenger throw the firearm.
Chief, do you have any idea where the guns came from at all?
The handgun that the suspect had, which is the one with the silver slide here, was reported stolen in 2012.
Which suspect? The driver or the passenger?
This was the top weapon was the one that the driver had in his possession, and it was reported stolen in 2012.
Can you tell us more about this picture? When was it posted? Do you know anything more about it at all?
It was posted on his Facebook page approximately 2 hours after the shooting.
After the shooting?
Someone acquaintance of his or someone posted it. We're still working through some of that detail. But
Were you able to find any other information that would be pertinent to the character of the driver that you found on Facebook?
On Facebook, no, sir, not at this time. We're obviously still reviewing that. The suspect does have a arrest history for felony involvement. Obviously, we're not able to disclose that, but he does have an arrest history.
And you're saying the gun there that he's holding matches, is that the gun on the bottom there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It has very similar characteristics.
And what model gun are those guns?
One of them is a Smith & Wesson, one of them is a Ruger.
The stolen gun is the one that matches what he has, or this gun? Which one?
The second gun that the passenger exited with is the one that matches that picture. This gun that the driver physically had in his possession is the stolen gun.
Is the other gun stolen as well, or do you know yet?
We're still working through the details of that.
There was a lot of conversation last night at the sheriff's debate in regards to juvenile crime and to regards to a generation lost, especially 16-year-olds. I mean, when you see a 16-year-old with a gun, how are police officers going to be able to, I guess, try to bridge the gap with the community when they have incidents like this where gunmen, young kids are armed and trying to ram officers? Well,
and that's one of the things that I tried to bring up is the importance to note the time compression here. This all unfolded in approximately 1 minute, and the officer is taking in a lot of information. A lot of things are happening extremely rapidly, and so the officer's not able to do a judgment of how old the individual is, or it's really a threat. And honestly, the age of the offender doesn't aggravate or mitigate the threat to the officer and to the community. The officer has to make that decision quickly, and with the information that's coming in. And in this case, I mean, obviously, the firearm is a serious issue.
Any additional information on the person at large?
No, sir, we're still,
No names,
no, sir, we're still working to identify.
Two questions for you. Were there any drugs or paraphernalia found at the scene or inside the vehicle that was left that rammed into the officers, anything like that?
Not that I know of. I don't have that information.
And we've seen a recent spike in teen crime in Jacksonville, you know, with the shooting and with other crimes. A lot of these teenagers are getting their hands on guns. I know we're trying to figure out where this gun was found, but is there anything that JSO is working to do when it comes to teens and either getting out in the community and talking to them or trying to figure out a way to stop all the violence amongst the youngest teens, 15, 16 years old?
Well, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office is always working to engage the community, as the juveniles as well as, you know, the community at large to make it safer. That's part of what our SHADCO does, is engaging the community and helping others. And I mean, it's an ongoing effort. So we're always working to strengthen that bond.
And you indicated Sergeant Nobles, this was his third shooting that he was involved in.
Yes, sir.
Any additional information on that, or just?
No, sir, I don't have the details of the previous cases.
Do you know if the other person was shot or was killed?
I don't have that
And
information.
just for clarification, did you say the stolen vehicle was stolen in 2013 or 11?
No, sir, it's a 2013 black Nissan Altima that was stolen March 11th of this year.
March 11th, okay.
Any other questions?
I guess what's the next step in this? You're still at the scene, or are you all finished processing at the scene?
We're still working through the information available to us. Obviously, like I mentioned, we're still trying to identify the outstanding suspect in this case and just put the pieces together that are there.
Is there anything active going on that? I mean, you're not searching, or are you just working?
We're not actively searching the neighborhood. We're just going through our investigative steps right now.
Any other questions?